Well, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Charles Eisenstein back to the GSL Festival this year. Thank you so much, Charles, for coming back to speak with these amazing young people. I wanted to start by really asking your thoughts around the festival theme this year. So the theme of the festival is small actions, big impact, and how can we make ripple effects of change? So I was just wondering if we could hear your thoughts on that.
Yes, you can. I mean, do you want me to just to like say general things about that, or do you want to?
Yeah, just go for it. I mean, I just wanted to, I love your mind. I love the way that you explore the world around us and your ideas about things. So I just wanted to see where conversation goes really and share that.
Yeah. So the phrase you used was small ripples, big change. Is that what you said?
Small actions, big impact, and
small actions, big impact. Okay.
Yeah, and how that can create sort of ripple effects of change.
Right. Yeah. So it would be nice to you know, like everybody that I know is drawn to do these small actions, and pretty much almost anything you do is going to be small. Even if it's part of something big, your part in it could be to show up to some event or to make your contribution to something. So really, when we're talking about small actions, we're actually talking about everything. Even any big action is a collection of many small actions. So everyone's drawn to do something that is aligned with their values in the future that they want to create. But then there's this voice that says, well, that's not enough. It's too small. So your question kind of, it is almost begging for an answer of no, don't worry. It's actually going to have a big impact. And that in a way justifies it to that doubting voice that ultimately says nothing you do is enough. Well, instead of playing into that dynamic and saying, don't worry, your small actions will have a big impact, I'd like to instead say it's not our job to be worried about how big the impact is. Because big impact isn't going to come from one person doing one thing, unless that one person is placed in a unique moment in history by what places one person in a unique moment in history that they can do one thing that is a big impact. What places them there is millions and millions of small actions that had small impacts that created the conditions for them to have a big impact. So really, like, who is having the big impact here? Is it that one person who occupied that unique juncture in space and time? Or is it the millions of people who created that? So I'd like to just, let go of justifying the way I live my life based on whether it's enough or not, whether it's big or not. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. So you're also, one of the things that kind of has come up, especially, I guess, has become more prominent with the work we've been doing and sort of during COVID, but also before. But we come a lot across the idea of well-being a lot in life now, and it's something that kind of is thrown around a lot in education and the importance of it. And I was wondering if you might be able to share your thoughts on what it really means to be well in oneself, but also how we can support others in being well.
Yeah. Yeah, well-being is not actually something that you can do alone. Yeah. It's not like, okay, you're locked in your bubble, you're under COVID lockdown, which is a term that was originally used in prisons, okay? But anyway, we won't go there. We'll just say like you're in your bubble and it's like, okay, how am I going to be well in this bubble? Maybe I'll order all the right supplements and I'll get my exercise and I'll do my meditation and I'll do my wellness practices and so forth. The one thing that's missing from all of that is relationships. The concept of health that is something that you can do yourself in your bubble, that draws on a concept of self as separate, as individual. But in fact, self is a set of relationships. So wellness, well actually means the same as health. Well comes from whole. So does health, wholeness. So well-being, being well means being whole, it means being in relationship. So it means recovering relationships to other people, to place, to soil, to plants, to animals, to everything that you can be in relationship to. And you could say reclaiming life from the mediating effects of markets and technology that replace full dimensional, full sensory relationships with, distant relationships. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. Well, the other question I had in mind that I wanted to ask you about was when I invited you to speak, you were very drawn by the fact that it was a youth festival. And this is something we find often, that we look to young people because we see them as powerful. Especially now, there's this massive call for young people to take responsibility in the world. And I was wondering if you might be able to share your thoughts about why young people's voices are so powerful and why we see youth as such a powerful time in life. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, that's not quite it. I see humanity over generations and generations and generations. It's that like kind of scaling this cliff, clawing our way out of a pit into which we descended for actually good reasons. Okay. It's not like we made some gigantic mistake and now we're recovering from it. We were on a journey. And part of this journey is of clawing our way out of a very dark place. And in that, the way that happens is that each generation stands on the shoulders of the last as we claw our way up this cliff. And so it's the difficulty is that as each generation ascends higher, and I even have this vision of the next generation like actually grabbing onto a root on the lip of the cliff and pulling themselves up. So what do they need from the older generation to do that? First, they need us not to be yanking on their ankles and trying to drag them back into the world that we're in, into the normality that we're in, into the belief system that we're in. Okay, like don't hold them back, but also to be solid so that they have something to push off of. So that then when they pull themselves over into what I call the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible, then they can reach down and maybe pull us up also. So it requires a kind of a trust in the next generation. Like I know a lot of people in my generation, especially like I'm kind of like a transitional generation, but like the older generation than me, what I've seen a lot of is, yeah, I'll support you, but only if you do something I approve of. Like I'll spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to send you to college, but you want $10,000 to visit regenerative farms around the world. You want $5,000 to do, like, if it doesn't fit into the old paradigm, forget it. I'm not going to support you. So that's something for the older generation to look at. Really, I mean, maybe this message is more for the older generation than for the youth. But I would say for younger people, at least like you yourself, don't buy into that. Don't buy into that validation that holds the successes, the achievements, the values of the old normal as like that's legitimate. Trust your natural aversion to those things, and and also like do the inner work of, okay, what is just my rebellion against and my establishment of independence in opposition to my parents, and I'm just going to oppose them. And what actually is, no, on a deep level, this is not aligned with the person that I am becoming and the world that I'm serving. So there's, it's not like just because you're young, you're infallible, but you are born into a new time. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I guess it was just to say, is there anything else you'd like to share at this point? And kind of reflect and share with the young people that are part of our movement. Those were the kind of 3 things I wanted to explore with you, and I didn't know if there was anything else that you felt compelled to want to say to them.
Oh, I mean, I could, talk all day, but
you've got some time.
Well, I mean, what I would say to people, it really depends on the personal relationship. I don't typically like to have like blanket advice to people. It's disrespectful. If I had, like for me to have advice to you means that I must see something in your life that you're not seeing, which might happen. I mean, this is part of actually what wellness is, to invite people into your vantage point, your experience of life, so that they can help you see. So, we're talking about, this is not something I can really do in the abstract so much.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, I don't know, it sounds a little bit like a cop-out. I mean, there certainly are things that I can say that I think are, have broad resonance in our time. I'm brewing this program called the Sanity Project. That's kind of about this, like living in a world that seems to have gone crazy. And when official sources of information, either they contradict each other or they contradict some deep knowing that you have. And then you start to question, well, maybe I'm crazy. If what I see is so at odds with what I'm being told is real and important. For example, I mean, ultimately it comes down to what you might call spiritual things, like the idea that the purpose of life is to be as safe as possible until you die and not to actually fully live. That would make sense if you're not going to die. And for young people, there is actually a certain healthiness to that feeling about your own immortality, like this feeling of kind of youthful recklessness or invulnerability, which on some level is not true. But really what that impulse wants you to do is it wants you to live. It wants you to not mortgage your life to security, to playing it safe. Like it wants you to express exuberantly aliveness. And so there is a vitality in that. And that's very different from our cultural denial of death. I mean, really, when you really accept that you are going to die someday, then you become less fearful, not more. Because you're going to die anyway. So freaking go for it, live.
Thank you. Yeah. I think I just wanted to touch on one thing as we keep coming back to this idea of a life being relational. And it was in one of your essays that you touched upon. It was a piece of advice you were given. And I guess what's one of the ways that we can help each other to express and really embody our vitality. And it was a phrase that a friend of yours had mentioned to you about the way that we can be in groups. So one of the things we do in our program is we work in teams and we work with each other. And it was the thing it's around the way in which we talk and why we're talking. And I was wondering if maybe you could touch upon your idea behind group dynamics and how we can support each other in a way that traditionally isn't maybe something we're used to in our schooling and education.
Yeah. That's a big topic. I think what you're probably thinking of my friend Gigi Coyle and her acronym WAIT. Before you talk, wait, which means WAIT. Why am I talking? like
Yeah.
to just like take a pause. Am I speaking to get attention? Am I speaking to establish my territory? Am I speaking to look smart? Am I speaking to signal my virtue, et cetera, et cetera? Or am I actually speaking to contribute to the group, or to the aim of the group, or to like, what am I? And this is not to say censor yourself if you're speaking for a bad reason, but it's to bring awareness to what might be unconscious. And I host an online community where we strive very sincerely to implement this as part of another thing that I think is essential for group coherence, which is the principle of reverence, which is to always remember that the person you are speaking to is a full sacred being, an entire universe behind those eyes, just like you are. And to remember that when intense emotions come up, so that, for example, anger doesn't get hijacked and converted into hate. But we can not take the off ramp onto blaming and belittling and judging the other, but to stay in the original emotion and see what comes from that. So that would be the other thing, is the principle of reverence.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. That's really the kind of all I had to explore with you, and I think that's really beautiful, and it really resonated with me in some of the ideas that we try and embed in the work we do. So we very much create a safe space for questioning and to explore. So I just wanted to say a massive thank you for your time and for coming back to speak to, I guess, this year.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Amy. And just wishing you an amazing festival.
Oh my goodness, these projects are just making me so emotional. I love it. They're so incredible. And let's introduce. So Mander, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself and say a little bit about, so this is, maybe you can tell us where you're calling in from, a little bit about the project that you did, but mostly tell us something about what you learned about yourself throughout this project.
Okay, my name's Tamanda. I'm Malawian, but I'm calling in from New York. I live in the US. And my project was about spreading skills to people left out of mainstream education. So I had workshops with my friends teaching, designing, tailoring, and giving people startup materials to start their businesses. And one thing I learned about myself, specifically about well-being, is that sometimes I tend to overwork myself and kind of reduce myself to just being a functionalist. And after GSL, I started taking up things like yoga, spending more time with my friends and taking more breaks. And I actually realized that makes me more productive, which I thought would be something that held me back in the beginning, but it wasn't.
Yes, awesome, Amanda. Yeah, sometimes we can get confused, but hold on, is this going to help? But actually, taking that time out for yourself. Sounds like you did an incredible project as well. Thank you for sharing that. And let's hear from Sahana.
Hi, I'm Sahana from Malaysia. I'm 16 years old. So for my challenge, I created a nonprofit to empower young people to participate in civic engagement. And via that, I ran a youth empowerment conference, and it reached, I think, from 72 countries. And myself during this was I have to not do that. And I might also learn to like narrow down what I'm really passionate about, because I tend to have like a ton of different interests. So during the program, I managed to like sort of narrow that down and identify what really sort of like drives me.
Great, thanks. So just really focusing in, taking that time to find out what it is that's driving you. And what about during your project? What kind of things were you doing to support your well-being, Sahana?
Yeah, so something that I was really focused on doing was balancing all my different workloads. So from school to my project and to like just downtime in general. So that was something that I really learned how to do. I think I can get very wrapped up in my work because I enjoy it. And so it was kind of a challenge at first, but I think I gradually got used to sort of like, yeah, managing my time better.
That's awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Time management, yeah, brilliant way to, and very simple, or seems simple, but actually it's quite difficult in order to really look after ourselves. Thank you so much for sharing. Nadia, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, ladies, Tamanda and Sahana, for logging in today. We're going to hear from Ruth. Hi, Ruth, how are you? And where are you calling from today?
Hi, my name is Ruth. I'm calling in from Nigeria. Super excited to be here today.
Welcome, it's great to have you. In the terms of well-being, what did you learn about yourself through the well-being aspects?
One particular thing I learned about myself was that I really cannot give out if I'm not fueled properly. So I learned mindfulness. I learned to slow down so that I can pour out to people as much as I want to. One thing I also learned that was ingrained better in me was that you cannot pour out of an empty cup. So if you are very stressed and you're tired and you're having like a lot of things running around your mind, you cannot give yourself out the way you want to. So for you to be that change maker you want to be, for you to be that person helping others, you need to first help yourself and make sure you're in the right state of mind. So just like I think Samantha, I'm very caught up in the work I do, but I learned that once I'm stressed, once my body is telling me to take a break, I have to take a break. If not, I'm not going to be productive at all.
Lovely, amazing. How have you managed to implement that now in your own life?
Well, it's been really hard because I have to juggle a lot of things, but I try to take a break when I need to and not feel bad about taking a break. I think what I used to feel before was, oh, I shouldn't be on a break. Why am I so free at this point? But it's not just about being free, it's about re-energizing and getting back on track so that you can pour yourself out the way you want to.
Yes, amazing. And giving yourself that compassion and forgiveness, like you said, so not to feel guilty, but like I need this, and with the intention of I need this to be the best for what I can do in the world. Ruth, it's amazing to hear from you. Just before you go, what was your project? What was your challenge?
My challenge was I actually had two ideas, but I just settled for one, which was on gender-based violence awareness. So I did an awareness program in a community where we spoke to them about rape and gender-based violence and shared, rape hotlines and spoke to them and allowed them know that, gender-based violence is very common and it's wrong. The thing is, a lot of people in my community don't understand that gender-based violence is a harmful practice. When you live in a culture that promotes things like this, you cannot identify that it's wrong. So, we spoke to them about how to speak up if a child is being harassed, how to speak up even if it's an adult being harassed, numbers to call, how to stand up even if you don't have anyone around, and very useful tips on handling gender-based violence.
Oh, incredible. Thank you so, so much. That's an issue very close to my heart. And I know Michelle as well. Like we talk about this, we work on stuff like this. Thank you so much. This is such an important issue, and you tackled it in such a good way with the education, the awareness, and the change in those cultural existing issues. Thank you so much, Ruth. Big round of applause to you. Lastly, on this panel, we're going to hear from Lynette. Hello, my dear. Where are you calling in from this morning or this afternoon?
Okay, good morning to you all. I'm Lenient. I'm calling from Zimbabwe.
Welcome, Zimbabwe in the house. How are you?
Okay.
What did you learn about yourself in the well-being practices that we covered in the program?
Well, I learned that I am capable of doing things that I thought I couldn't do. Taking up these projects which we were supposed to carry out for the whole month of March. I didn't expect, like, I underestimated myself, but little did I know that I'm actually capable of doing great things. You know, the change that I actually brought in my community, it was noticeable. It may not be that very big, but then there was a change and a significant difference that can be noticed. So I learned that I'm capable of accomplishing my goals only if I give myself, and if I really have passion for something, and if you commit yourself to something, you can actually do great. So I learned that I shouldn't underestimate myself, and I can do great.
Yes, you can. Absolutely. Thank you. One more question. What did you learn about other people, and how can we support each other with our well-being?
Okay, the basic thing that I learned from other people is the team spirit that we had. You know, coming from different countries, having different religious beliefs, and people from different races, but we managed to come together in oneness so as to bring different ideas. You know, I learned so many different ideas from people from all over the world. So the power of teamwork is actually a key lesson that I drew from my fellow panelists who are graduating today. So the spirit of teamwork and unity is actually what I learned from others.
Oh, absolutely. What a beautiful way to end the panel there as well. Thank you so much, Linian. Unity, teamwork. You're amazing, all of you. If you can all come back on camera, we can all applaud you. All the ladies from the panels. All the panels. Getting the challenge. Yeah, so we have Linian, Tamanda, Sahana, Kyomin, Mia, Ruth, Shane, you're back. Yay! Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.